So today, last section in this whole quiz foray that we're headed to, this chapter is a huge proof chapter. So we had a huge proof chapter in chapter 2, got away from proofs a little bit in chapter 3. We're going to bring them on strong in chapter 4. You guys, proofs are like carrots, broccoli. It's the stuff that, it's so good for you. It's so good for you. It's so good for you. Okay. They're really high fiber nutrients. Okay.
They're not necessary in our everyday life. So what's the point?
Yes. Okay, I'm moving on this afternoon.
Oh.
So the students this afternoon will watch it.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Congruent triangles. So section 4.3 is where we're going to kind of start the basic, proof around congruent triangles. Teachers, math teachers specifically, like to show you the long route first and then the shortcut second. That's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm showing you the long route first and the shortcuts second. You have to know the long way to make the short ways a little easier. So this is just another piece of you.
So it's like driving on a road trip. Like you have to go the way you don't know first, and then if you learn that, you can.
Then you can take the shortcut. Okay, here we go.
That was a terrible analogy.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
Triangles, draw 'em.
For carrot, it is better. Every time I draw a triangle, I try to
Okay, so these triangles are going to need to be congruent, so draw them to the best of your ability. Obviously, it's hard when you're freehanding them. They're supposed to be.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, then you're right.
Okay, so congruent triangles have lots of things that are congruent. They have matched up pieces. Think of it as a sticker. If I were to take this XYZ triangle and peel it off the page, it should fit how with triangle ABC?
Exactly. It should be coincide.
Good. Tell me, so the definition of congruent triangles is that they have 6 congruent parts, and that's layman's terms. I'm obviously not putting that in the way the textbook would talk about it, but it serves our purpose for now. The definition of the congruent triangle, or the set of congruent triangles, is that they have 6 congruent parts, and 6 is an important number. Raise your hand, please, if you think you can come up with what might be included in that set of 6. Jaden. Good. 6 congruent parts means 3 congruent sides and 3 congruent angles. In order to have a congruent triangle with another triangle, set of 2 to be congruent, you have to have 6 congruent parts. And this is that whole have to go the long way first. There's no shortcut. You need all 6 parts to be congruent to be able to say, by definition, you have congruent triangles. Yes.
Who's lame? Was he like French?
Hey.
Are we proving congruency?
Correct. That's right. That's where we're headed. We're going to prove that 2 triangles are in fact congruent.
So we're like.
Are they going to be like long proofs since you have to prove like 6 or like?
Right. They are. Yep.
So are we? Is this kind of like replacing definition of congruency almost?
No, you'll still use that. You'll still use it. All good questions. Hang in there. We're not quite there yet. So 3 sides, I want you to make sure you understand what it is that I'm labeling here, and then I want you to label it the same. So 3 sides. So segment AB. Segment AB is congruent to segment what? What would be its corresponding side? Good. Hey, next one. Let's go segment BC. What would be its corresponding side? YZ. And the last side, AC. Okay. If I were to mark that, it would look like this. The tick marks must increase as you go. The single tick mark sides are congruent. The double tick mark sides are congruent, and then likewise, the ones with 3 tick marks are congruent.
Is that the same for like polygons?
Yeah, it's the same for any time you have more than one congruent piece. There's an awful glare on that. All right, we'll keep rolling. All right, so 3 congruent angles then. Angle B is congruent to what? Angle Y. Angle A is congruent to, this might feel a little elementary, but hang in with me because there's something that's going to come from this that's important. An angle, all right, now, the piece that comes from this, the very important takeaway, is something called a congruency statement. A congruency statement.
Can you write that down?
Yep. A congruency statement is written with purpose. It is absolutely imperative that you take your time prior to writing the congruency statement and not just slap it down on a piece of paper. Because when you do that, when you write it correctly, it provides tons of information. A congruency statement is simply telling me triangle, in our case ABC, is congruent to triangle XYZ. But the catch is that you match corresponding angles correctly. So, I'm going to say, not ABC, I'm going to say triangle CBA. Just so you have to think about it differently. You can't just think alpha order here. Triangle CBA. If I chose to start that congruency statement like that,
You have to do ZYX.
correct. So now all of a sudden, I don't even have to have a picture of the triangle. I know what parts are congruent to what parts without even seeing the picture. Okay? So I can see a congruency statement, and all of a sudden I could tell you what angles are congruent to what angles and what sides are congruent to what sides. So the congruency statement, if it's written correctly, provides a lot of information.
So can our given be our congruency statement?
Actually, this will be your proof. Your proof will be your congruency statement. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So we're going to do one now, and then that'll be it for notes. And you'll find the proof actually to be easy. Long, but easy. Okay? It's less thinking involved with these. You just kind of muddle through it. So here's our first proof, or first and last together here, just one. I want you to draw this picture with me.
Oh, so are we gonna have to like still use the definition of corresponding and stuff since it's like
What?
not necessarily
Anything we have proven up to this point is absolutely fair game, for sure.
Does that mean we'll use it?
Well, doesn't mean you will. Maybe you might.
Means you can. That's why proofwriting is so great. Yeah,
Fun.
it is fun. It's good for you.
Do accountants use it?
Watching a football game on Sundays is fun.
No, it's not. It's
Accountants
boring.
just deal with like payments. Not like that.
It's problem solving. It's process
I want
oriented.
to know what an accountant is.
Is that what you're gonna be?
I don't know.
Okay.
Accountant will not use my doing stuff like this. Like that for sure.
Thank you. All right.
It's caught on video.
So I'm gonna go ahead and give you.
No, I'm not.
Dollar not
What
without
did you say, kid?
money.
Okay.
I said that one because it's caught on video.
Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and give us the given information and walk you through this. At this point, if you have any highlighters that are not out yet, you may want them. It's going to obviously be important with our proofwriting, but this one in particular. So this is the picture we'll deal with. Given angle M and angle P.
Yeah, you can have one. One. What color?
I got it. I'm good.
You got
Right angles, write it down. So Segment PQ is congruent to segment MN. QR is congruent to NR. The whole list of given information right there. So you're going to notice that the given information is going to be pretty helpful, pretty substantial.
That's a lot, though.
It's a lot for what we're used to.
You do have to put one above another.
Thank you.
Am I colorblind or
Prove.
This literally look like the exact same color.
PQR, triangle PQR is congruent to triangle MNR.
Did I say
So what
RT?
is the
Are these
Yeah, right,
colors?
right.
M plus TR?
Okay, so let me repeat this. Let me double check that my letters are right because now you're making me nervous. QPR,
No,
MN. Okay,
This is being done.
M and P are right angles. That's what right means. RT, right angles. Segment PQ is congruent to segment MN. Segment QR is congruent to segment NR. And then our triangle congruency statement is already written for us. It's our proof. We're proving triangle PQR is congruent to triangle MNR.
So is there like, do we have to know like, is there any converse for this? Like,
Do one first and then you'll see. Do one first. Because I think if we just get through it, it'll kind of cross out some of the gray area for you. Alright, so like we have all throughout this year so far, we're going to follow the 3 proofwriting rules. Do you guys remember what they are?
Given.
Given. Definitions. Proof.
Okay, and then this is our highlight step, right? Okay,
And then prove.
highlight, and that will take us to our proof. So we have our given down. Let's rewrite it in our statement list. And this is where it gets a little bit tedious, but
Do we all like put them together, or we
Sure.
have to like put them in different steps?
let's just put them all together. All right. In fact, honestly, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I like to separate them just because it keeps it a little bit less chaotic. For example, pause here for just a second. Angle M and P are right angles. Does this one need a definition?
No, because it's already got the little symbol.
Does it have a word?
Yes.
Right.
Right. Does this one need a definition?
Yes,
Yes.
definition of right angle.
Good. So sometimes it's nice to just go step by step to be able to use definition in order. You don't have to, but I'm going to show you kind of why sometimes it makes more sense to separate them. So step 2 is to define the word that was given. So definition of a right angle.
An angle that is 90 degrees or more, or no, 90 degrees.
Measure of angle M equals 90. Measure of angle P equals 90.
Do we have to have the measure of?
No, but you should while you're doing it with me, because that's how it should be. Okay? So measure of angle M equals 90, measure of angle P equals 90. Okay, so we've defined that piece of given. Go back. What's our next given information?
PQ or segment PQ is congruent to the segment MN.
And then, do I need to define that?
No.
No. So could I go ahead and just keep writing my given then?
Yeah.
Might as well. You don't have to. But this would be an example of when it would be nice maybe to shove it all together.
Would you suggest like spacing it out? Like the given?
I would suggest spacing it out when you have a definition. Yes, I would. All right, so we've already defined what we could define, step 2. This is where, with this whole 6 congruent parts, the highlighting is kind of nice. You need to come up with 3 segments and 3 sets of segments and 3 sets of angles that are congruent. So let's figure out, first of all, what we have so far in terms of segments. In terms of segments, what segments are congruent?
QR.
Okay. I'm going to highlight when I have it. So I have, oh shoot, I forgot a given. QR and NR. I have that one. There's one green highlight. What else do I have?
MN and PQ.
Okay. MN and PQ. So I already have 2 out of the 3 found. That's why I think the highlighting is helpful. It shows you what you need. I am sorry. I hope this isn't going to throw a lot of you off, but I forgot one of the given pieces.
No.
If you don't have room down below, put it up above. R is midpoint
So would that be a definition?
Yeah.
of MP. So R is the midpoint of MP, also has to be given to you, or else you're not going to be able to end up with 3 congruent segments to be able to prove. So I'm sorry, I missed it. There was so much given information. Should have been in the middle. It should have been provided to you before we started.
No, I mean like in our statement.
Yep.
So
Now I have to drop it down. So this will be our next given.
So this is a huge step.
You will be given a lot just because you have a lot to prove. All right, so step 4 is also given. Goodness, 4th letter broke. All right, if R is the midpoint of MP, do I need to define that one?
Yes.
What am I defining?
Depth of
Depth of midpoint.
Depth of midpoint, because that's a word. Anytime we have a word in our given, we define it.
I don't know if I'm gonna have room for this.
Yeah, might have to do continue to the next page or something. What is the definition of midpoint? Those of you that have this written on your green sheets, help us out, Sophie. Go.
AB is congruent to BC.
Measure angle
So
PR.
that would be PR.
Segment PR is congruent to segment RN.
Perfect. Good job. So now you can see why that other piece of given information had to be there. What does it provide us with?
Another point.
Thing, the third
Part.
side.
Another part.
Once your triangle is highlighted all the way around, we've already found all 3 segments, all 3 sides. So what's missing at this point?
Angles.
The 3 angles. So I'm going to choose a different color to find those 3 angles. And then once I have every piece highlighted, I can end my proof. Okay.
Hey Lord, what a sweet color. Like
What kind of fail was that?
Yeah, I don't want anybody injured in our proof writing.
Double
Okay.
fail. Especially now when proofs are dangerous and bad for the brain.
Dangerous and bad for the brain. All right. Step 6.
What?
gotta use different color.
Do you think
Carefully, don't go through them. Just take them over. Don't
That was a good
Proofs
throw.
go to the left. Always like throws it 5
Let's see.
yards short.
I'm ready when you are. I'm ready when you are.
Need this.
Let's go.
You
You
think
guys.
they can do it? I need
Yeah,
it.
we were smart.
Be kind.
Excuse me.
Here we go. We're good.
nice focus?
Okay, step 6.
You need the. Wait, who needs
What do you need?
Is this what you're looking for?
Maybe, yeah.
Thank you.
Look for it.
No, that's mean.
Step 6, we kind of have to look at the other pieces that we have before we move on to step 6. Is there anything that we should go back and highlight in our second color for angles that we've missed maybe?
Yes.
Right angles.
Right angles. What do we know about right angles?
They either one is meeting.
Okay.
We highlight that, right?
If M and P are equal to 90, they are not congruent yet. I don't have that. I have to have,
So would it be
Congruent.
definition of congruency?
so it would be, there are actually 2 possible ways you could go here. So measure of angle M equals measure of angle R. And then could I change from equality to congruency?
Yeah, you did.
Or, let me show you this one. I have it highlighted for you. We just haven't used it a whole lot. Look at your green sheet back. I think it's in chapter 2 maybe.
Right angle congruency
There you go. What does that say, Sophie?
says all right angles are congruent.
Good. If we have 2 right angles, let's save ourselves some steps and just use this theorem. All right angles are congruent. So now, I can go ahead and say angle M is congruent to angle P because of right angle congruence theorem. Do you guys have that highlighted on your green sheet? Okay. Okay, so take your second
We take
color.
points off for not saying theorem and stuff like that.
I don't. Highlight M. however you want to. It might even be easier just to highlight the letters, really.
I have a lot of
Okay. I encourage you just to stick with 2.
I like this. This is very cool.
Yeah, if you do too many, it gets a little wild, but keep going. Okay. Which angles now am I missing? Where am I at? What am I
We
missing?
need N and Q and N.
An R.
And I need this stuff at R. Right. Does anybody see it? Don't shout it out. Raise your hand if you see it. Does anybody see a theorem that would allow me to find a pair of angles?
Wait,
Get 2?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Wait, wait,
Turn and tell your neighbor what you think it is.
The alternate angle.
wait. Can't we use the thing that takes the 2?
No, what is the thing? Sophie, trying to think of everything.
Vertical angles theorem.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
That's not what I was saying.
Hey,
That works.
So if we just say, yeah.
vertical angles theorem. Okay, so step 7 is to say angle QRP. Wait a second, why am I using 3 letters all of a sudden?
Oh,
Because R is the midpoint, so you need to specify which side you're going
Good. Nice job. It's absolutely okay to not have 3 letters when you have an angle like N. The only angle there is angle N. It is absolutely necessary to have 3 letters when you have a situation like we do here in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and put down QRP and MRN, vertical angles.
Do we have to use capital letters?
Yes.
I hate writing in capitals.
You need to for these.
But it's so annoying. It looks
My
so
dad,
annoying.
that's the only way he writes.
That's him with Mr. Whiteside. He always wrote capital letters.
Yeah,
Guys,
my
That's
dad
the
never.
difference in a capital
Okay, we're so
letter
close.
and a person.
So close. Number 8. Okay, this is the theorem that we highlighted but didn't use much in our last section. We have 2 out of the 3 angles. I have 2 that are already congruent.
Well,
Wait,
those
so
2
how do
are
you know-
congruent. And then
How do you know
the
to
other 2
measure?
Wait, that'd be the third angle theorem, wouldn't it?
There you go.
Wouldn't you have to?
Sweet.
Hold on, Connor, I'll get there. Let me finish this thought.
I'm confused.
Third angles theorem. This is in chapter 4. The third angles theorem tells you if you have 2 already, then you can get the last one by default, basically. So the third angles theorem says you found 2. Here's your third.
Is this all we need? Or is there something else?
You're gonna need your proof.
So is the page 234 is that
Oh.
all proofs?
Stick with me. Hold on. Angle Q is congruent to angle N by third angles theorem. And then statement 9 is your proof. When you have 3 segments highlighted and 3 angles highlighted, you can end your proof with your proof. And the reason for that is purely definition of congruent triangles. So we are using the definition which says 6 congruent parts to prove to prove our statement, to prove everything. I will give you a shortcut later, but for now that's what you have.